Talk to fluency from beginner to fluent.
Take your English skills to the next level.
Have you ever stopped to think about how connected our world really is now?
Mm-hmm.
How lives from totally different places just weave together.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing, isn't it? These personal stories, especially the ones crossing borders, they often hold such insightful lessons about adapting, connecting, just growth, really.
And you, our listener, shared something fascinating with us this video. It was designed, interestingly, as A1 English listening practice.
Yeah.
Seems simple on the surface, maybe, but what it actually reveals is, well, it's quite something else. So today, we're taking that curiosity you had about this A1 practice material, and we're really going to dive deep, not just into the language stuff, but into the human story inside it. This really extraordinary journey into the heart of an international family. Exactly. And what makes this particular deep dive so interesting isn't just that it's a nice story. This narrative, yeah, it's presented through a language learning lens, but it works as this really rich case study. It shows you the subtle process of cultural adaptation, you know, and the complexities of language learning and just the beauty and the challenges of building a life where two worlds genuinely meet and blend. And like you said, as we unpack it, you'll definitely see some valuable insights into, well, effective learning strategies, especially if you're aiming for that natural, sort of native-like fluency.
Okay, right. Let's unpack that learning part first then.
Yeah.
The source material, the videos for A1 listening practice. But what really jumped out, beyond the story itself, was the thinking behind it, the philosophy of how it was made for learners.
Yes.
It wasn't just about the words, but how they were used to help people actually get better.
Yeah.
What did you make of that approach?
Oh, it's a brilliant strategy, really, for language acquisition. The source spells it out pretty clearly. The point of an A1 listening practice like this isn't just to keep you comfortable at A1.
Right, because that doesn't help you move forward.
Exactly. That just leads to getting stuck. The real goal is to strategically nudge you, help you progress towards A2 and then beyond that. And they do this mainly by, yes, speaking slowly, using simpler language that's expected, but here's the really key bit. It also deliberately throws in some new words or maybe slightly harder phrases.
Ah, okay.
It's this calculated sort of gentle exposure to what's next.
And that's where it gets really interesting, isn't it? It's a lesson for learning almost anything, I think, not just languages. This idea that the higher level exposure isn't supposed to freak you out or overwhelm you. It's more like you hear about comprehensible input plus one in language learning theory.
Yes, exactly. That sweet spot just beyond what you know.
Right. Feels like that. By putting in those slightly harder bits, the video helps learners just naturally get used to more difficult English. It prepares their ears, their minds for the next level. And a great side effect of doing it that way is that the topics can be more interesting.
Definitely.
You're not stuck with super basic, maybe boring stuff just because you're A1. It keeps you engaged, which is, let's face it, crucial if you want to practice consistently and, sound more natural when you speak.
Absolutely. And if you connect that to the bigger picture, this whole approach really highlights a fundamental truth about learning any skill, but especially language. It shows that real, lasting growth isn't just about mastering what you already find easy. It's about that gentle but strategic and consistent exposure to challenge, that stretch zone.
Yeah.
Stepping just outside your comfort zone, but in a controlled way. That's absolutely essential for genuine progress, for getting better at listening, speaking more fluently, whatever skill you're aiming for. It really is the foundation for becoming a more natural English speaker.
Okay, so with that foundation, that understanding of how learning can work effectively, let's dive into the story itself. How this international family actually came together. It started, like so many journeys, with someone stepping outside their comfort zone, right? Embracing something new.
That's right. The story kicks off in Guadalajara, Mexico, a really vibrant city. The speaker in the source material, he met his wife there quite a few years back. He was on what was initially just a 5-week trip.
Okay.
And importantly, he wasn't just there for intense study, although he was at a language school studying Spanish. But he also explicitly went intending to have fun, explore the country. It was this mix of, purpose and adventure.
And the place they actually met?
Yeah.
You couldn't script it better, could you?
Yeah.
At that exact same language school. He's learning Spanish.
Up trying to broaden his horizons.
And she's there studying English, apparently getting ready for her TOEFL test.
That's what the source says, yeah. The TOEFL, Test of English as a Foreign Language. Pretty standard requirement for study or work sometimes.
So it was a real cross-cultural meeting point from the very start.
And what's really insightful, I think, is the specific class they met in. It was a conversation class.
Ah, not just grammar rules.
Exactly. It wasn't about drilling verb conjugations. It was set up specifically for local English learners to talk with the foreign Spanish learners. So it created this really natural kind of organic space for them to connect. Real communication, not just exercises. It just perfectly highlights how practical conversational practice is so powerful in language learning and how it can lead to, well, unexpected connections.
But it wasn't like meet cute, then immediate wedding bells, right?
No, definitely not.
The source mentions they then had this 3-year long-distance relationship. He was in the U.S., she was in Mexico. That sounds incredibly challenging. 3 years is a long time across borders.
It really is. It takes immense dedication, and the source explains how they met at work. They made a real concerted effort to visit each other, many times, it says, over those 3 years.
Okay, so consistent effort.
Yeah, it wasn't just, maybe once a year. It was a pattern. And their commitment paid off. They ended up having 2 wedding celebrations.
Great.
One in Mexico, for her family and roots, and one in the U.S. for his side.
Acknowledging both cultures right from the start.
Precisely. And only after both those celebrations, really cementing their bond across both places, did he make the big move. He moved to Mexico to be with her.
Wow. That really shows the intention behind it all. So, okay, post-weddings, post-long distance, he makes this huge move to Mexico, trading his worlds for hers, essentially.
Yeah.
How did that adjustment go for him? What does the source say about that?
Well, he talks about having to adapt naturally to a completely different culture, a different lifestyle, adjusting to all the new customs, the way things are done.
Which must have been huge.
Absolutely. But what's really insightful is his reflection on those 3 years of long distance. He mentions that the daily phone conversations they had during that time actually played a massive role. It was almost like a preemptive cultural immersion. Through talking every day, he started getting accustomed to Mexican culture, the rhythms of daily life, even before he physically got there.
Ah, that makes sense, like building a bridge before you cross it.
Exactly. It smoothed the path, even though the move itself was still obviously a big adjustment.
And it wasn't just cultural adaptation, right? There are always practical hurdles with international moves. Does the source touch on those?
It does, yeah. It explicitly brings up the immigration processes, which can be quite complex. He had to become a resident in Mexico first.
Okay.
And then later, when they moved to the U.S., she had to go through the process to become a resident here. And the source is very direct about it. It says dealing with all that bureaucracy is neither fun nor easy.
I can imagine. Lots of paperwork, waiting, stress.
Exactly. It just underlines that often unseen side of building an international life, the administrative hoops, the patience required.
And now, living in the U.S., the tables have turned, in a way. It's his wife's turn to navigate adapting to a new country, new customs, a new culture.
It completes the circle, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
It's quite a testament to their partnership that both have gone through that massive process of relocating and integrating. They truly understand what the other experienced.
And what's really fascinating now is seeing how all these experiences, the cultural blending, the language navigation, how it all comes together in their children. They're creating this truly international next generation, literally from day one. The kids are like living embodiments of this blend.
Yeah, and their birthplaces alone tell a story, don't they? Their son was born in Guadalajara, Mexico, so rooted in his mother's home country, while their daughter was born right here in California in the U.S., connecting her to her father's side.
It's like a geographical snapshot of the family's journey.
Exactly. Reflects everything they've navigated.
And crucially, both kids have dual citizenship. They're citizens of both Mexico and the United States.
Which is more than just a legal status, right?
Oh, absolutely. It inherently sets them up for this unique linguistic path, this bicultural identity right from the start. It gives them this broader perspective, a built-in advantage almost, for understanding the world.
And that leads directly to them being bilingual, which is such an incredible gift and speaks right to that goal of, natural native speaking from birth. The son, it says, is already fluent in both English and Spanish, which is amazing for a young kid.
It really is. And the Spiegel talks about the sheer joy of just watching him develop those skills, seeing him learn to switch between languages so effortlessly.
And the daughter. She's younger, right?
Yeah, very young, not really speaking yet, but she's absolutely on the path to being bilingual too. And it's not just happening passively. The source is clear. The wife consistently speaks to her in Spanish.
Okay.
And the speaker, the father, uses English with her.
So intentional immersion from both sides.
Exactly. It's a clear strategy. That consistent input in both languages is key to building her future fluency. Creating that rich environment fosters those natural speech patterns right from the beginning.
So, given this journey, the kids' dual heritage,
Yeah.
how does it all play out now? How do the two cultures actually mix in their daily life now that they're mainly in the U.S.? It must be a constant balancing act.
Well, the source suggests Mexico is still very much a living, breathing part of their family identity. It's not something they've left behind. They make a point of visiting regularly, sometimes once, maybe even twice a year.
Wow, that's quite often.
It is. And the speaker specifically calls Mexico his second home. He lived there for 6 years, remember? And his wife's parents are still there. So it's a strong, ongoing connection to family, to roots, to heritage.
So while they live here in the U.S. and follow mostly American customs day to day, some Mexican ways persist.
Definitely. They're intentionally kept alive. A small example the source gives, but quite telling, is their preferred lunchtime. It tends to be later, more aligned with Mexican schedules than typical American ones.
Interesting. Little things like that show it's not about one culture replacing the other.
Exactly. It's a dynamic blend, an evolving fusion of traditions that they're actively shaping.
Which leads to the question, what are the overall pluses and minuses? The benefits and, well, the challenges of having an international family like this.
The source gives a really nice, balanced view on that. It openly says that while there are many good things, many rewards, it also states very clearly that it's not always the easiest path.
Right. It takes work.
Constant work, probably. Communication, understanding, adapting. It's an ongoing process. It requires effort.
And yet, despite acknowledging those challenges, the speaker sounds incredibly grateful for it all.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
He expresses profound gratitude, calls his international family perfect for me.
That's so lovely.
He clearly cherishes his wife, his kids, all the experiences, including that transformative time living in Mexico. For him, it's clearly a source of huge interest, fun, deep satisfaction.
But he also adds a caveat, doesn't he?
He does. He's quite candid, noting that this specific journey, this kind of blended border-crossing life, is not for everyone. Acknowledging that for some, it might be too challenging or just not the right fit. It's a choice and a serious commitment.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, our listener? We've gone pretty deep into this really powerful personal story, a family's journey across cultures, across languages. And just by exploring it, we've learned not only about the beautiful messiness of cross-cultural living, but also about effective ways to learn languages.
Yeah.
Especially if you're starting out maybe with something like that A1 English practice material and aiming for more natural, more native-sounding communication.
Yeah, this story really does illustrate the richness that comes from embracing different backgrounds, but also the sheer commitment needed to get through the cultural bumps and the logistical hurdles. And ultimately, the amazing legacy of raising kids who are truly global citizens from the get-go. It just underlines how valuable open-mindedness, patience, and adaptation are, especially today. And it reminds us that language isn't just grammar and vocabulary, is it? It's a bridge to understanding people, cultures, everything.
And maybe it leaves us all with a thought to ponder. In what ways could stepping intentionally into maybe unfamiliar territory, culturally, linguistically, even in small ways, like checking out that A1 video you found or joining a language exchange, how might that profoundly expand our own understanding of the world and maybe our own place in it? Could it lead us to unexpected connections, richer experiences? Something to think about. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. See you later, and Talk to Fluency YouTube channel. Subscribe for more.
Talk to Fluency from beginner to fluent.
Take your English skills to the next level.